Soul Leveling Season 2, Episode 9 becomes the first episode of the season to hit over 1K dislikes on Crunchyroll. The latest episode showcased Jinwoo's emotional reunion with his mother, aka the latest episode, this episode for those that are wondering, where Jinwoo is able to heal his mother with the elixir and allow her to actually have a reunion with her family. For Jinwoo to finally be vulnerable, for Jinwoo to finally feel like he is human once again. The episode is very important because obviously ever since the first episode of Soul Leveling, it set the tone up for basically Jinwoo wanting to save his mother, for Jinwoo, being a hunter, to be able to provide for his sister and his family, for, they can actually have a good life. That was the entire objective of why he wanted to become powerful, or even be a hunter and put himself in the line of fire and risk his life so much. So the fact that it is the most disliked episode is absolutely wild. Now, before I go any further, we need to show the facts here. We need to look at this really closely before I go talking about any more stuff about this. We gotta look at the dislikes. So currently at this time of me recording, this is a few hours after this post, the episode is now at 1.8k dislikes with 147,000 likes. Now, obviously, the dislikes is very, very small in comparison. It is just like a drop in the bucket in comparison to the overall likes that the episode got. But, however, there is something that does need to be mentioned, and that is the fact that when it comes to most episodes of Soul Leveling, for instance, like, this is the first episode, which everybody that's getting into Soul Leveling is gonna watch, okay? This episode only has 40k likes and 400 dislikes. And once again, this is an episode that came out way over a year ago. Back in January of 2024, and it only has 400 dislikes. And then you do the cross comparison to this episode, it has 147,000 likes and 1.8k dislikes. Now, I have to assume, because the sample size is a lot larger, it's very obvious that the dislikes are probably going to be a lot larger as well. That's just common sense. We also probably have to factor in bots. I mean, at the end of the day, bots run on different platforms to instantly dislike or downvote something, so who's to say there isn't a bot that probably does that on Crunchyroll's site? I feel like that's a waste of time and money, but there's probably people that actually do that. But getting into the main point, it still doesn't change the fact that the episode apparently is like the most disliked episode for Soul Leveling, or at the very least the most disliked episode of Season 2 to this very point. And I think this comes down to a variety of different things. One thing in particular is that Soul Leveling has become a lot more popular. I mean, it has been continuously, in this just last month alone, setting records, creating trends, and, and even if it's a negative, it got even a celebrity to voice in an episode, which I made a video talking about a few days ago, and I'll talk about that in a second, why that's relevant to this episode. But the point is that Soul Leveling has obviously reached a new level of fame, and it has been noticed by a lot of people. There's a lot of people diving into the story, really enjoying it. You see a lot of people talking about it, a lot of memes, etc. So it makes sense that, it is something that is incredibly popular. And so with anything that becomes incredibly popular, you have those that are going to bandwagon against it and want to see its overall failure. And so I feel like that's where a lot of the dislikes probably come in, if we're not necessarily counting bots. However, I do think it's extremely pathetic, though, the fact that this episode of all episodes is the one to get the most dislikes out of the entirety of Season 2, and let me explain why. For one, the main objective of Soul Leveling, which I already kind of briefly mentioned, is that Jinwoo wanted to reunite with his mother, to heal her, and to be able to be a family again. He wanted to have his mother be able to come home and spend time not just with him, but with his sister. And he's a man that's been raising his sister, paying for everything for the last 4 years within his life. So you factor in all this emotional trauma and hurdles, PTSD, and everything else in between, he's dealt with a lot. And so he shows weakness in this episode. He starts crying, and then because of this, it becomes the most disliked episode. And it's like, action/shonen fans can never escape the allegations that they literally are just basically meatheads that only like action and they only like pretty animation, and if there's any nuance or character development or a great story, they absolutely hate it, because it's like, when you see stuff like this, it gives ammo and reason to why people constantly meme on action/shonen fans. I love shonen, I love action, but my goodness, dude, you can't just have action in fights all the time. You gotta have some breathing room. You gotta have some development. And obviously, this episode had that. It's a great episode. One of the best episodes of the story, because obviously the story was built up to this very point. This was the main objective, regardless of your personal feelings. The Ant Island is obviously a side objective within the story. Within Jinwoo's story, healing his mother was the priority objective over anything else. So that is the significance of this. So it is pretty pathetic seeing that this became the most disliked episode, especially when an episode like this exists. Which, you know what? Let's just, let's play it.
Acceleration.
Like,
Gravity acceleration.
I mean, if you haven't caught on, this is the English dub where Tusk is voiced by J Balvin. Now, to be fair here, okay? A lot of people that probably watch Solo Leveling only watch the English sub, so time this dub came out, they probably did not watch it in dub. But what I'm trying to say is when you take a look at the dislikes here, there's only 100 dislikes. It's a good episode, don't get me wrong. But what I'm trying to say is case in point, that people are willing to be A-okay with horrendous dubs, etc., as long as it has pretty art and animation and action. But when it comes to anything that has anything emotional and a character showing vulnerability, get that out of there. It needs to be removed. That's what people think. So yeah, like I said, this is extremely pathetic. Like I said, the sample size is a lot larger as well than the other episodes, but it does showcase why people meme on action/shonen fans as much as they do when you see stuff like this. It's like, of all episodes to get the most disliked, it's this one. Ooh, that's bad, man. That's really bad. I'll leave it at that, though. I wanted to talk about this because I saw this in my feed, and I was in shock because, like, the episode I watched yesterday was so good. I loved it so much, and just, like, did you guys like it? Did you dislike it? You know, be honest in the comments below. I am legitimately curious to see what you guys think. But okay, I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.